Hey y'all, it's Gina. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about rag quilts. I made a video a couple of years ago with this rag quilt actually, and I had some questions, and through the years I continue to get some questions about how to do the corners, and I'm never quite sure why, because the way that you do the corner or the borders is the same as a regular quilt. And so I thought I would go over that so I could reference anyone that has questions on it, because I started a new little project. My sister-in-law has a young niece that recently lost her mother to cancer, and her birthday's in a few weeks, and so I wanted to make her a little doll quilt. She has a special little doll that she has she's written some stories about the doll, and so I've never met this little girl, but I just am sad, I guess, for her, because you know, she's lost her mother. I made this rag quilt, so I have 2 more rows, and I'm going to show you those. And so what I've done is I just pulled some fabric from my stash, and I used 2.5-inch squares. And so I've got a 2.5-inch square for the front, and then 2.5-inch squares for the back, and then they just get a little 2-inch piece of batting, just scrap batting that I have in the centers of them. And so they're really easy, they're kind of fun, and we're gonna make them. And as soon as I get these next 2 rows sewn on, I'm gonna show you those 2 rows so you kind of see how I'm doing it. Then I'm gonna put the border on so I can kind of answer some questions from this old video. But before that, I thought we would talk about how stinking cute would it be to make my Gina Tell pattern with the rag quilt. Imagine all these little pieces with the ragged front coming out, and just to be able to like snuggle that raggedy bear. Oh my gosh. So I think that might be a next project that I need to do because it's too sweet. I don't know, just imagine how cute it would be. So anyway, there's that. So I just had come up with a thought. I do a lot of my best thinking in the shower. I was thinking about this morning. And now let's get to sewing. We're gonna finish up this rag quilt. Okay, so a rag quilt is made the same way as a regular quilt, only the seams are sticking out instead of buried inside. So basically we're gonna do a quilt as you go kind of thing. You're gonna put the batting inside the 2 pieces, and so the batting is gonna be inside, the backing is gonna be here, and your front's gonna be there. We're gonna do just a small little bit of quilting on it to keep it together. Then we're gonna sew our rows together, and poof, adorableness. Okay, so this one, I got all of my pieces together the other day, and so it doesn't really matter because it's scrappy, but okay, so the good side of the fabric, the batting goes in the middle, and then the backing, and so we want the good side showing and the good side showing. We want it to look just like it does right here. Then we're gonna go from corner to corner, and I raised my stitch length to about a 3, and then I backstitch a lot on this. So then I'm gonna just start, and I'm not starting in any particular area, I'm just kind of a little ways from the corner. No, not an exact number here, so just don't worry. And so then we just have a stitch and a stitch, and now we're gonna put that one down and do the next one. And then I'll show you the magnificence of adding them together. Okay, so the good side's showing, then the middle part has the batting, and then we have the backing piece. Now my pieces are probably not exact, I just pulled from my stash, so like I said, this is one of those projects that's perfect for a beginner because it does not have to be perfect. The pieces do not line up exactly, and that is okay, because that's what normally is inside your seam, but this time we want it to stick out and fray and look cute. Okay, so now there's your front side, and there's the other front side, and so when you do a regular quilt, you do your good sides together. We're not doing that. We're going to basically do the back sides together. And then I'm going to stitch from this line to this line on the quilting, roughly. I'm back stitching again and then I'm back stitching when I get to the other one. And then look, you pull it apart and now there's your back already ready, and your lines, your quilt lines match up, so it's going to look like a little crosshatch on the back. Then we're going to take our little snippy scissors, and I kind of do it at an angle. There's no right or wrong. And then we're going to do our next one. So there's our good piece, the good side, then our batting, and then our back side. Oh, I forgot to back stitch, and it is okay. Want to also make mention that I am way off right there. Again, it is all right. So now we're going to match up our fronts, or I'm sorry, match up our backs. And then we're going to stitch that side to that side. And so you see there's a little bit there of that piece, and then that backing piece is a little bit longer, and then there's the back. So it doesn't matter that it's just a little bit off. And we're going to take our little scissors, do some snipping, and then there we have it. Okay, so let's finish these 2 rows and then we'll add it to the quilt. Okay, so we have our 2 rows finished, the last 2 rows, and so we are going to join them together the same way. I wonder, I think I'm going to flip that so that I don't have stripes on top of one another. So instead of, so when we're sewing normally, we do good side to good side and then we stitch. This time we are not doing that with this. We are going the wrong side to the wrong side like that. And so you can pin, let's do that just for all of the pinners out there. I don't normally pin, but if you want your seams in the back to be pretty close to matching, then I'm just kind of pinning generally. It's not going to be perfect. Just pinning right in the middle. There's our seam there. I just have a mess of a whole bunch of different pins here. All right, and this one. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew the quilting stitches that we did, we're gonna start on that line, we're gonna back stitch, and so we're gonna leave the 1/4 inch that's normally tucked inside out. So we're gonna start there, we're gonna back stitch, and then you can try to open the seams if you want to. I don't worry about the bottom part. I just try to open this top ones a little bit so it's a little less bulky. And then so here's my seam coming in and there's my seam coming in. I'm just gonna try to get to that part. But the fun of these is the rag part. So again, have fun and do not let the quilt police in your room today. Okay. We'll take our pins out. And there we go. Look how cute. All right, so before we flip it over, we're gonna go through and when you're snipping, make sure you don't snip through the seam that you just sewed. If you do, just go back and reinforce it. This is a great project to use with pre-cuts. Since they have the pinked edges, they kind of shed on their own. And so then you can kind of just rough it up with your hands. And I have my iron over here on. I'm gonna just press it real quick. I have my little small iron, and then when I use the iron, I just kind of rough it up also. And now we have that seam on. All right, let's see. Do my fabrics look okay like that, or do we want to switch it? think we'll do it this way. All right. Okay, so it looks like my quilt is about 14 inches this way, and let's see, about 17 inches the other way. So it's 14 by 17 right now, so it's little. And on my other quilt, I did a border on it. So you could leave it just like this and put a stitch all the way around, rag it up, and be finished with it. Or you could go ahead and put a border on it like the one I did. Okay, so now let's talk borders. So we're going to sew on the borders the same as you would with a regular quilt. So here's our regular quilt. We're gonna sew the two sides on first, and then we're gonna sew the top and the bottom. So what I've done is I have prepared a 2.5 inch piece. So this is gonna be the front, and then another 2.5 inch piece, that's gonna be the back. I've cut it the same size as my quilt. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fold it in half, and we're gonna finger press it, and we're gonna fold it in half again and finger press it. And what that is going to do, it is going to give me a line so that I can do my quilting. And I'll show you, since you probably can't see it. So there's a line, there's our center line, and there's this line. And we're gonna do it on this side too. So we're gonna fold it in half and finger press, and then we're gonna fold it in half again and finger press. And we're gonna open it up, make your lines, and I'll probably need to make the lines on the other side because that's the side we're gonna be sewing on. All right, then we're gonna take our 2.5 inch piece. We're gonna nest it just like that. We're gonna flip it over. We're gonna put that piece there. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to the sewing machine, and we're going to start on this side or this side, doesn't matter. We're gonna start on one of the corners, and we're gonna sew across to that fold mark. Then we're gonna sew it across to this fold mark, then across to this fold mark, and then across to the end. Then we're gonna do the same thing over here to here, to here, to here, to here. And that's gonna make one big long X in the center of both of them. And then we're gonna attach it to this side, and then we're gonna attach it to that side. Then we're gonna do the same thing on the top. Okay, so let's get sewing. Okay, so we are going to sew just like I showed you from one corner to the next. So we're sewing from the corner of the line here, then we're turning in. And we're to that mark that we made. Then we're to that one. And we are sewing in 1/4 of an inch or so, just like we did with the blocks. Okay, so now I am going to sew down one end, and we're going to leave the other end raw. We're not going to sew the other end because this is the end that's going to sew to the machine, so that's going to have this stitch. But this is going to be the part that's going to go on the outside, and we want it to have a little bit of a stitch so that when you snip it, it's not just open like that. So we're going to go all the way down. Okay, so now I'm going to snip off this little piece of batting that was left over on the end, and this one, and then we are going to sew it to our little quilt. So now we're going to want to do, so we're not going to do it like we normally do. We're going to set it there, and we're going to say that's how I want it. So this is the part we want on the edge, since that's the part we just put the seam, and now we're going to just put them like that. So your two back sides are together. Start on the end and back stitch. Okay, and now we have one side of our border. So you might want to look and make sure that you didn't miss any of the pieces. So we'll rag it off in a minute. We're going to do this other side. So now we're going to put the side that we did the stitch already on that side. We're going to set it right there so we know what we're doing, and then we're just going to put the two back sides together and stitch. All right, so now I got all those edges, and so we're going to rag it off. And then because this was a friction pen, it'll go away when I press it. And now we are ready to do the top and the bottom. So we're going to do that exactly the same way, and then we will be finished. Okay, so now we are ready to sew our last two borders on. So this is the part I had the most questions on from the previous video, so I thought I would stop and show it again. So we've got the two sides on. This is the top and the bottom of the quilt, or reverse, doesn't matter. And now what we're going to do is we are going to sew the back or the bottom, and we're going to sew this one. So we're going to make sure that the seam that we made is going to go on the outside, and the seam we made is on the outside, and then we are going to flip it so we've got the two inside pieces together. And then we're just gonna pin it real quick so I can show y'all. And then we're gonna pin this side. And then we are going to do the same thing over here. So we want it to go like that. So the two inside pieces together. And then we're gonna just pin it. And then by sewing them on, that's going to create the two corners. All right, so I'm just gonna pull the machine over and sew it right here. Okay, so when I'm going, I'm just going to make sure that I'm catching both ends. I'm going to try to open those seams a little bit, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. right, so I back stitched on both ends. Push the machine out of the way. Take our pins out. And then that has created that line. All right, so then we need to rag the end and rag the end. This end is a little bit long, and what we'll probably do is, I'll show you. So because this is so raggy and not perfect, we can just do that. We can sew the end together. We can trim it off. Look at that. We can rag it all up. And that part, same way. And then when it gets washed, you will never know that it was a little too long. And so the same thing, we'll do that on the ends, just rag it all up. I usually take it outside and shake the heck out of it and try to get, because it's gonna make a huge mess in your washer and or your dryer. I have taken them to the laundromat before if it's big, but that's what we're gonna do. So now it's time to rag these up and all the way around. I'm gonna sew these two ends on. All right, we're gonna sew these final stitches. Take our pins out. All right. And now look, it is all done. Okay, so this end is a little bit too long, and I think it's gonna be fine. I'm just going to snip it. That was so much fun. Isn't it cute? Do you love it? So here's the back side, and there's the front side. And so obviously we need to wash it. My suggestions for washing, you could, if you're just making a small little baby doll quilt like this one, you could just soak it in the sink or the bathtub, get it wet, kind of rag it up with your hands and hang it out in the sun to dry. And then once it's mostly dry, you could throw it in the dryer just to kind of fluff it up. You could throw it just in the washing machine and into the dryer. It's just gonna make a little bit more of a fuzzy mess. But I have done that also. I did it with this one. This one's been washed a number of times in my washer and in my dryer, but it does just make a big mess, and sometimes my husband yells at me. But anyway, so this is the one from the previous video. I will link that down below if you want to watch the older video. And then this is the one from today. So make sure you comment and ask any questions. And if anyone wants to volunteer to make a rag quilt out of the Gina Tell pattern, I would love to see it. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.